Extra special thanks to Cincy Music for co-hosting My Favorite Album is Terrible. For the best in what Cincinnati's amazing local music scene has to offer, be sure to follow them on Instagram at Cincy Music, that's Cincy with a Y, on Facebook at cincymusic.com, also Cincy with a Y, and on their official website, www.cincymusic.com. Here's the show. Good evening. My name is Kent Mulcahy with the Cincinnati and Hamilton County Public Library. Welcome to tonight's episode of My Favorite Album is Terrible, the music show where we discuss misunderstood or unloved albums, not guilty pleasures. I feel like it's important to make that distinction each week. A guilty pleasure is something that you kind of know is bad. That's not what we're talking about. Whoever picks the album, they honestly believe that it is a good piece of music, and no matter what critics or otherwise fans of the band say, they think it legitimately stands as a representative work of that artist. Everything that we talk about tonight is going to be available to you for free with your Cincinnati and Hamilton County Public Library card. At least music-wise, most of what we talk about is going to come from our streaming services, which are Freegal and Hoopla. Tonight's selection comes to you from Hoopla. Make sure you check the comment section. I will put links to everything that we talk about tonight in the comment section so you can just place your hold and jump right in and get caught up to speed on whatever comes up in tonight's discussion. Speaking of the comment section, if you enjoy the program, give us a like, and more importantly, give us a share. I'm really trying to make the comment section a lively place for discussion during these episodes. The last episode, the comment section, got a little raucous, and I want to keep that trend going. So if you know any music fans out there, especially music fans in the Cincinnati area, share this program with them. We'd love to have everyone join us. All right, so our guests tonight, there are two. Our first guest, I try to avoid cliches when possible, but I don't think it's a stretch to call Norm Holloway Cincinnati and Hamilton County Public Library royalty. Though he is now retired, over the course of his career, he touched many lives, both of library customers and library employees. So I'm so happy to have him on the show tonight to take part in something library related. In his retirement, Norm founded and runs Success Via Chess, which is a youth mentoring program that uses chess as the vehicle to, get to the youth out there. It's a fantastic program. I suggest everyone follow them on all the social media to keep up with what Norm is doing with that. Norm describes himself as a trapped in the 90s hip hop head. Actually, that's something that he and I bonded over when I started working at the library, so I'm very excited to have him on the discussion tonight. With him, Norm is bringing Chris Oliver. Chris Oliver is a devoted husband of 14 years and father of 3 sons. Born in California and raised in Indianapolis, Chris is a graduate of Xavier, and even though I'm a UC grad myself, he thought it was really important that I say, "Go Musketeers." So there, I did it. Chris is a sports and music enthusiast, and as a matter of fact, Norm and Chris met on some of the various music and sports blogs and groups, of which Chris is a frequent contributor. Okay, so the album that we're going to talk about. Norm wanted to talk about Electronica's A Written Testimony, which came out on March 13th of 2020, a date that I'm sure a lot of us have a lot of memories associated with. And for me, this album coming out on that day is a big one. So Electronica, I'm sure a lot of folks out there, that name may not ring a bell for them. And it's interesting. I'm trying to make these introductions shorter and shorter. Even though you've probably never heard of Electronica, and even though he hasn't released all that many songs, to do a proper introduction of him would be a full episode or multi-part episode in and of itself. Again, to try to avoid cliches, I hate, that musician is an enigma. And Electronica is an enigma of the hip-hop world. Since 2007, before the release of this album in 2020, he'd really only released like 10 total songs, period. Official songs. He had guest verses here and there, but only 10 official songs. And just from those 10 songs, he created and maintained massive hype. Like the urge for more Electronica material never evaporated, even though you would go a long time without hearing from him. Over the course of over 10 years, Electronica's solo album's about to come out. He would even say, my solo album's about to come out. And then you just would not hear anything at all. And so in true Electronica fashion, from kind of out of nowhere, again, a few days before March 13th, 2020, hey, my solo album's coming out on March 13th. And we're like, yeah, right. Well, then we wake up and there it is. It finally came out. Just to continue with the whole, you never know what he's going to do. Astoundingly, this was almost a collaborative album with Jay-Z himself. Jay-Z is on every track but one, and probably gets almost as many bars in as Jay Electronica does. I mean, what does it say about a rapper that you may not have heard of that really didn't release that much, that when his album finally comes out, Jay-Z is basically your co-pilot on the album? That just speaks volumes. Okay, and so with that, we'll just let the discussion tell you a little bit more about Jay Electronica if you don't already know much about him. So let's bring on Norm and Chris. All right, Norm, how you doing tonight, Norm?
Maintaining, man. Good to see you, bro. Good to see you.
Hanging in there.
Good to see you, Chris.
How are you? Oh, Chris, you hearing us?
Yes. Yeah. I'm doing all right. I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah. All right. I was very excited to have you guys, and you know what? I'm already a little worried because I know for a fact, two things that I'm worried about tonight. One, I'm just gonna like blow the cover. Chris was not a fan of this album, and I'm gonna try to not let emotion come into this, but not a fan of the album. The other thing I'm gonna have to worry about is in leading up to this interview, just the little text discussions that we had, the little one-on-ones. Norm and Chris are going to get into it, and I don't know how I'm going to keep this under 3 hours. So, yeah. So, what you guys got to say before we take off the gloves and get into this?
Before we start, Kent, one of my favorite artists, and probably not my favorite artist, is represented here on my shirt. And so I intentionally wore Tupac, not only because I like him, but because he's an artist known for a high work ethic and putting music out quickly.
I see. So he's throwing jabs already. Okay. I see where we're going. I like this guy. I see where it's going. Now, look, man, I'm looking forward to this, man. Let me just start out, man. Let me just say, like, look, when I first, how Jay Electronica even came to my attention, man, was the song that you alluded to, his iconic Exhibit C, man. Like when that dropped, I think it was like, what, 2009?
Yeah.
Man, like, when he has that line where he says, call me Jay Elect Hanukkah, Jay Elect Yamaka, Jay Elect Ramadan Muhammad, Assalamualaikum, Rasulullah, Subhanahu wa ta'ala through your monitor. And then he punctuates it with, my Uzi still weighs a ton, obvious reference to PE, man. I lost it, man. I'm like,
yeah.
I knew right there that, like, whatever this guy's drops, like, I'm going to like it. Like, so, like I said, I'm a trapped in the 90s head. But I also came up like in the 80s, in terms of like, I came up under that umbrella of hip hop where it was about edutainment and it was about lyrics, man. I'm talking about lyrics. So I'm all about lyricism, man. So I'm from that cloth.
Chris, what's your background with the history of Jay Electronica?
Yeah, Norm's already lathered up. I need to break the sweat here. Norm's ready to go. Like Norm, I'm sort of a trapped in the 90s type of guy, right? Yeah. I can listen to some of the current music. I try to have I have my oldest son is 19, right? So he keeps me abreast of all the new music, and some I can listen to, some I can't, right? Now with Jay Electronica, I probably learned about him probably around 2000, 2009, roughly when the singles were dropping, Exhibit A, Exhibit C. I think there was another track, Life of Falcone or Life of Falcon. I liked all of those tracks. So like Norm and a lot of other folks, I was highly anticipating the album 8 years ago. And so, yeah, I mean, we referenced Detox. I mean, when you start to bring Detox into the conversation, I think that there says enough. So I like Jay Electronica. Like Norm talked about, I'm a guy, I like conscious music. I loved PE. I loved KRS-One. I like the guys that give a message, the guys and gals that give a message. I also grew up in California, around a different type of environment. So I like the street gritty sound too. I loved NWA, Ice Cube, Tupac, so on and so forth. So when I heard that Jay-Z was a part of this album, again, you kind of get both sides of the coin, right? You get Jay Electronica, you get Jay-Z, and so yeah, I was highly anticipating the album.
Interrupt one second.
Few years ago.
Are you a Jay-Z fan in general?
Huge Jay-Z fan.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, huge Jay-Z fan. So
okay,
yeah, I mean, I was waiting to hear the album like a lot of other folks. And let me make this point and make it clear Now, it's not that I have a strong dislike for the album as much as I have a strong dislike for the opinions of those people that exalt the album to classic status.
Fair.
Right?
Yeah.
So as much of my argument may be against Norm and the views that he holds of the album as opposed to the album itself. There are certainly some silver linings to the album, as you mentioned in the intro. There's certainly some high points to it. There are low points to it, as you might see with every album. But then when you also couch it in the fact that it's in the same sentence as Detox, then yeah, therein lies a big problem. When you also mention the fact that Jay-Z, the featured artist, is on 99% of the music in the album, where he oftentimes may even outshine the artist himself, then we have some things to talk about.
I think so. Here's the thing. So first off, it's clearly a duet album. Okay.
Yeah.
There's two perspectives. You can look at this album as either a distraction because Jay-Z is so prevalent on the album, or you can look at it as a cosign, which I choose the latter. I think it's basically a cosign. So Chris is a sports enthusiast. So I'm gonna throw one at you. I look at it like LeBron basically going to get AD. You know what I'm saying? And say, look, you probably ain't gonna get a chip by yourself, but if you come play with me, we can get this championship. So
All right, everybody. Hi. I think we're back. We had a couple of technical difficulties there. Thanks for hanging out and waiting with us on that. Norm, Chris, you guys make it back safe. Are we all okay?
Yes, we are.
Here.
All right. Yeah, we got the thumbs up. So Norm, before you got so rudely interrupted by computers, you were going off on a LeBron James kind of analogy, and so let's let you pick up where you were.
No doubt. Appreciate it, man. So, and you know what? As far as the technical glitches, man, whenever you're doing something noble as such as an endeavor like that, inherent in that is always going to be some difficulties, man. So this is a noble endeavor to decode written testimony for me. So, hey, it is what it is. But no, this is an homage, to my man Chris. He's a sports enthusiast, man. So one of the big critiques that you hear about the J Electronica written testimony album is the fact that it's essentially a duet album because Jay-Z is probably on about 6 of the 8 songs. But here's my view on it. Like I said before, I view it as more of a cosign, as more as a distraction, having Jay-Z being on it. And like I was making the point, I look at it like LeBron bringing Anthony Davis to the Lakers. Like everybody know that Anthony Davis, I don't think he's never, and Chris can correct me if I'm incorrect, I don't think Anthony Davis has never gotten out of the first round of the playoffs. LeBron, when he goes to any team, he's just going to take you to that next level. It's kind of like, to go off on another sports tangent, Tom Brady coming to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I mean, just instantaneously. So having Jay-Z on your album, I mean, man, when the album even opens up, man, when he was, it's just like the moment I hear him, I'm like, oh man, this is going to be epic, man. I mean, Jay-Z, to me, is the greatest MC to ever do it and still doing it. So, yeah, I viewed it as a cosign. I didn't view it as a distraction by any means whatsoever.
All right, Chris, any thoughts on that?
Well, I think Norm's trying to soften me up with the whole LeBron thing, because he knows I'm a LeBron stan. So, but that's a good point. I understand what Norm is saying. I think this would be more acceptable and more palatable if hip hop, if music was a team sport, right? J Electronica didn't build himself as, or he didn't come in with 4 of his partners and build themselves as New Edition or NSYNC, right? They're not a Tribe Called Quest. They're not Public Enemy, right? So the album was never built that way. To me, a cosign would have been for Jay to say, hey, I'm supporting this artist, or hey, I have a feature, maybe 2 on the album. I believe that Jay might be on every song on the album except for Fruit of the Spirit. I think that might be the only song that Jay is not on. So while I can appreciate the analogy, I have a little bit of an issue just swallowing that in one piece, right? That's tough,
And
right? Because it's not a group.
I've almost got to agree. Like, to me, in some way, I enjoy the album so much that it didn't really impact it for me. But yeah, I as I said before, I can't remember if I said it or not. I still, in a way, don't think we've heard the Jay Electronica solo album from this, and I'm kind of okay with that. But I've got to wonder. And again, this is me saying this as a huge fan of the album, and I'm going to put words into your mouth, Chris, and see if I'm right on this. Chris, do you think there's any chance that he reached a point where he was like, you know what? Maybe I can't fill up a whole album with something that I'm happy with. So if Jay's willing to come on and do this, let's just do this and kind of split it up.
Yeah, that's a tough question. Kind of trying to get into his head specifically to understand what he's thinking. But I think you have a point there, Kent, and I think Norm may have even alluded to it earlier, maybe in a previous conversation that he and I have had about it. But there's a song on the album, I think The Blinding is the one, and he really kind of lays out some of the doubts that he has within himself, and how Jay Z was even questioning him a bit about whether or not he was ready or really willing to do this at this time. So, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? I think, that's one of the things that we appreciate about artistry and great artists, right, is when they kind of lay their soul bare.
That's
right?
The song. Is that the one where he has the line, "When I look inside the mirror, all I see is flaws"? And
yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's it. And so, I don't think there's anything wrong with the artist kind of putting their faults out there. I just think when it's your debut album, I think we need to see more of you than of anybody else, right? And this is sort of a half and half. And I think it can help to sell records. It helps to bring more exposure to the record, to have someone like Jay-Z on there. But and as much as I love Z, I wanted to see Jay Electronica in on his own. I wanted to hear about him in full.
Okay.
Now, I feel you on that, but look, you know what? Go ahead.
Nope. Go for it, Norm.
No, I was just gonna say, and I think to JLX's credit, he presently sort of addresses those doubters, like he's got that line on Ezekiel's Will. What does he say? My debut album featuring Hove, this is highway robbery.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I hit the lottery. It's like, so I feel like he's aware, he's very cognizant of the doubters and the naysayers who may have, have the sort of, sentiments that you just expressed, though, Chris. But I think in all, the fact that we just got a Jay Electronica, like I said, having Jay-Z on it, to me, was just like, icing on the cake. But I think you find Jay-Z just as proficient in this sort of like lane and in this chamber. But I think what I saw too was like this lyrical duel. Like Jay-Z already told us and declared that he was the master of the double entendre, right? I think that was on Kingdom Come album. If you listen to this album, they're dealing in like triplets and quadruple, quintuplet entendres, man. And it's like, I feel like there was almost like this duel to see who could come up with the most obscure sort of entendre, And if you listen to the album, like, first off, if you're a Juicy J fan or a Black Youngster or any of these other cats, this ain't the album for you, right? This album, you're going to learn something. Trust me. Like Jay-Z has that line, and I forget which song it's on. I think it's on Universal Soldier. And he talks about back when something he alludes to Escobar, and he knew very little about Chesimard. So I'm like, obviously, we know who Escobar is, right? You know what I'm saying? Pablo Escobar. But I had to go learn, like, okay, who is Chesimard? I'm like, man, that's obscure. And come to find out, I didn't know this. Chesimard apparently was the married surname of Assata Shakur. So it's like, you hear these lyrics and they're constantly just sending you to the lab. And it's just like, wow, man. Every time I listen to the album, I'm telling you, I come away with a new understanding and a new insight because it's so pregnant with just entendres, man. I just think it's incredible.
Okay. So you got, go ahead, Chris.
No, go ahead, Ken. Go ahead.
Oh, what I was going to say was what you were talking about before that, Chris, and then what Norm was talking about, you jumped one ahead of me on the questions I wanted to ask, but I'm just going to go there with it.
Okay.
So I'm going to go ahead and ask. I'll start with Chris, just because Norm was speaking last. So whether you like, I think hopefully this is irrelevant to whether you really love the album or not.
Right.
Do you have an opinion on who actually had the better verses?
I'm going to be honest with you. No.
Okay.
I don't have an opinion. It's okay to respond to one point that Norm made there about learning something, right? And that's very true, right? It's an intelligent album, right? But I also think you have to be very careful, right, when you infuse a project with consciousness, that the musicality doesn't suffer, right? And so I think there's something about the tempo of the album, the musical nature of the album, that suffers, right? What I kind of like to do with a lot of my music, right? It's sort of categorized in terms of when I like to listen to it. Like I have some albums that I'm a big Wu-Tang fan. GZA, right, is a member of the Wu-Tang. He has a classic album, Liquid Swords. I've always called that my wintertime album, right? Because of its dark nature, I only listen to that. I don't want to hear it in the summer, right? Because it kind of has this dark feel. One of the things about this album is when do you listen to it, right? And the only time I can think of is right before bed. Right before bed, maybe when you're drinking tea and you're trying to fall asleep, right? Wow. That's and yeah, maybe you have Matlock or something on the TV and you're really just trying to fall asleep. But when do you listen to this album?
Every day, all day, man. You know what? So again, this album is clearly it's not for everybody. I mean, let's just get that out the way. It is not for everybody. It is edutainment at its finest, man, and it is just like lyricism that's just like you really have to unpack it, man. I mean,
but you know what, Norm, you shouldn't have to have a secret decoder ring, right, to understand an album. And I get what you're saying, right, because to validate my point, right, I'm not everybody. Okay, my favorite song on the album, right, is Universal Soldier, right? I really like that song, right? And one of my favorite bars from the entire album is Jay's. He has a line on there. We done ducked the Fed charges. Now we eating confit, right? And it's a play sort of off of comfy, comfortable, and duck confit, right? So I get it. I love it. One of my personal favorite albums, which is a personal classic that I know a lot of people either aren't familiar with or don't like, is an album called Heavy Mental by Killer Priest, who is an affiliate of Wu-Tang. I love that album.
Yes.
Now, that's an album, again, that's very dense, has a lot of spiritual references. He can be sort of mono. He reminds me a bit of Jay-Elect with his style, right? So,
absolutely.
And the beats are kind of, they're not your average hip hop beats. So I can, and another favorite artist of mine is Nas, right? And everybody always talks about how Nas's beats are left field. So I can get with different beats, but also one of the albums that I love with Nas, a few years ago, he did an album with Damian Marley called Distant Relative, which is another personal favorite. That's a classic album for me. That's two artists coming together. But one of the things that I loved about it, right, that even though you have two artists that can deal with higher consciousness, I still love the melodic nature of the album. To me, the music didn't suffer, right? And I think this album would have been great if they would have sold it as an audiobook.
Whoa. Now, all right. Well, I don't even know where to go with that. See, part of me as the librarian is wanting to say audiobooks are great. That means that you must really love this album. That's really good. A couple of things I want to circle back to, and I made a note. And actually, I'm making a note just on something you just said there. You said, when do you listen to this album? And I had never really thought about it from that term. But just personally, I don't listen to this like I listen to a normal rap album. This is like a security blanket for me, and I think and I don't know if this is fair, but I think it's because of the timing of when it dropped. Like we talked at the beginning, it dropped on March 13th, which was really the day that everyone was like, oh no, we are going to go home and we're not going to see anybody for a long time. And I will never get this memory out of my head. I was working on a project in the stacks, and I'm way in the library where no one's really allowed to go, and I'm listening to this for the first time, and it's like, it's not harsh, it's not like beating you over the head. There's like 2 bangers on the whole album, and other than that, it's just like, it's positive, and I will always associate it with like, I'm back here in the stacks, I don't want to leave because the outside world is really scary right now. And I went home, and I'm stuck home with my kid, and he's like 2, and we were still learning about the virus, and I'm like, I don't want him to go out. I'm not a hypochondriac, but I'm really nervous, and I could just put this on at bedtime, like you said, and I would just kind of, I would just be like, okay, this happened at the right time, and it's positive. And you know what? That's not going to be the reason that, everyone's going to want to listen to it. And you putting it into perspective, I do not know how I would sell another person on when this album should be listened to. It's not a radio album.
I mean, I think music always puts you in a place and a space of what you were experiencing at that time. So, I mean, clearly, for me, it'll always be embedded at like the inception of this pandemic on March 13th. And I think, Jay-Elect is obviously, he gets into his bag of numerology and eschatology, and, his whole album is infused with 5% and NOI theology. Yeah. So I think the fact that it dropped during such a a once in a century sort of like pandemic, man. I mean, I think for me, it'll always be like, man, he finally dropped the album. We've been waiting for over a decade, and he drops it right at the start of the pandemic. So that it'll always sort of be that, for me. But
so Chris,
right.
You were talking about, you really like Jay-Z. You did say you're a huge Jay-Z fan, and I'm kind of with Norm. Jay-Z probably is my favorite rapper. And I was showing this to a lot of my friends who, they only listen to, I mean, I don't know how to say this without sounding like I'm slagging it, but like conscious rap. You know what I mean? Right. Like, they're like, what do you listen to? I listen to like Talib Kweli, and I listen to Jurassic 5, and I listen to all this stuff. And then, part of me wants to go, oh man, we need to talk about that in and of itself a little bit. But, and then I try to say, listen, you guys need to go back. You need to listen to some Jay-Z. You're not going to like the whole album, but you are missing the point of Jay-Z if you only hear his, and he talks about it in that song, The Bounce from Volume 3. That's the stuff I write to keep the registers chinging. Yep. So I don't know if you would go along with me on this, but I'm really trying to get my closed-minded friends to like, listen, this can, even if you don't like the album, this will prove to you that Jay-Z is a better rapper than you think he is. Do you think it at least could be a tool to show people who, aren't going to listen to radio rap? It's reductive.
And I think it's tough, right? Because Jay may not be my personal favorite artist of all time, but from an objective perspective, he's the best to ever do it, right? I can step out of myself and say that and acknowledge that. And I love Jay, right? To me, Jay-Z is one of the few artists, right, that has demonstrated such intelligence that he's been able to walk just about every lane and line there is in music. Whether you're talking about street stuff, if you're talking about party record anthems, or you just want smart, intelligent music.
Yeah.
Norm talked about it. Jay is the king of double entendres. To me, there's no question whether he is or not. Yeah. But Jay is very intelligent. I knew that when I heard Reasonable Doubt, which was his first album. It took a lot of people a lot of years to catch on. When I first heard that album, I really liked that guy because I realized he was very intelligent. Even though a lot of it was boss drug rap, street stuff, it was so smartly done, right? It's absolutely not your, like Norm talked about, Black Youngster or some of the other new rappers out here. and yeah, they're very direct with it, but in terms of intelligence, it doesn't really get through to me. It doesn't resonate. And so I think with Jay, sure, you can introduce this to someone, but I think you're doing that person a disservice and you're doing Jay-Z a disservice if you don't give them the full breadth of Jay.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
I think if they were just willing to give Jay a real shot, then they would get it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure whether this album would convince them. I do think it's again a very intelligent, conscious album. I do think Norman's correct in that vein.
Yeah, and you know what? To your point, Chris. Yeah, anybody that's wants to really experience Jay-Z, you got to go back to Reasonable Doubt, man. I mean, you can do a sociological. I think they got a sociology class on Reasonable Doubt, man. So I mean, that album right there, man. I mean, come on, man. But
So, man, I'm looking at the time here. Got to be respectful to you guys and everybody out there watching. So, got to kind of start moving towards wrapping it up. But I would, Chris, the last time we did this, and in between the technical difficulty breaks, you said something at the beginning, and man, I have been thinking about this ever since you said it. You said that, and I'm not saying that the only reason you don't like this album is because of other people's reactions, but you said that part of it makes it hard for you to really enjoy it with just the crazy effusive praise that everybody's giving. And I can totally relate to that. And I respect that so much. I mean, the best example for me was, Norm, you just said Yeezy, and that's why it made me think about this. The My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy album. I mean, that was like, I don't think I saw any reviews that weren't 5-star reviews, 10 out of 10. And I don't get it. And I think that had I not seen the reviews and I had all these, like, I love the first 3 Kanye albums. I play them all the time, the first 3. And then this one came out and all these people were like, I never liked Kanye before, but I like this one. And I'm just like, it just turned me against it. So I respect that. So you've been reading reviews or talking to people like me and Norm, makes it harder?
Yeah. Only because, one of the problems that I have with us as hip hop consumers in a body over the past 20 years is just this willy-nilly nature, how easily we throw out the word classic, right? I'm old enough, I consider myself a child of hip hop. And it was difficult for you to garner the term classic at one point in time. It really meant something. And it just feels like it's tossed out there so much, right, that I have a problem with it. Now, what I can say, right, is knowing Norm, this is a album that falls right into his wheelhouse, right? It's an album, as we've talked about, is infused with spirituality. It deals with 5%, 5%ers, the nation of the gods and earths. It deals with Islam. These are things, right, that are important to Norm, right? So he's getting a lot of the connotations. He's getting a lot of the subplots and things that are being thrown in there by both of the J's, right? It fits him. So I understand why it's a personal classic, right? But I think we have to be careful when something is a personal classic to you, right? How does this album resonate objectively? So like I said, going back to the Killer Priest Heavy Mental album, that's a personal classic. No one can tell me that that's not a good album, right? But I understand if I talk to 9 other people, 7 of them probably don't even know that the album exists, right? So I get it, right? So you have to be very careful. Distant Relatives with Nas and Damian Marley. It's a classic album. You can't tell me anything about that album. But I understand everyone else may not view it the same. So it just seemed like a lot of people were coming out from a personal perspective and trying to tout it as almost a game-changing sort of album. And it was just kind of like, I don't quite see it that way. Sure. I see it as about a C, B- album at best. I think there's some high points on the album. But again, I think the tempo, their tempo on some of the songs,
40 days and 40 nights, man. 40 days and 40 nights. That's what you get. It's raw, man.
Norm Holloway, Chris Oliver, thank you guys so much for your time tonight. I really appreciate it. This is a lively discussion. I'm gonna let you guys go, and I'm gonna start sending you guys texts and annoying you about doing that next episode for Heavy Mental. So
I would love to.
yeah, all right.
No
Well,
doubt.
you guys have a wonderful evening, and again, thank you so much.
All right, great job, Kent. Great job, Norm.
Thanks.
Appreciate it, man. It's always a pleasure, man. Chopping it up with you guys.
See you too.
All right, signing off.
Peace. Peace.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of My Favorite Album is Terrible. Thank you so much to Norm and Chris again for their super valuable time. Please, please, please look in the comment section tonight for everything we talked about. Of course, I'm going to put the links to the Electronica album there, but everything that we went off and talked about, I'm going to try to find all the links for you to check those out immediately. Make sure you check 2 Thursdays from now at 8 o'clock. We'll do the next episode of this show. I'm going to put in the comments section the big reveal of what album we will be talking about then. So take a look there. And also, if you enjoyed what you were seeing tonight, give us a like, give us a share. I really want to make this interactive. So let other music fans know, and we can chop it up in the comments section. Other than that, thanks for your time. And yeah, we'll see you 2 Thursdays from now. Bye, guys.